apart from the paper, right? So if you got a hold of, the music, you meant the paper that would have the parts for the clarinet, for the trombonist, for the whatever instrument. They didn't even have all the instruments that we have today, of course, right? Those instruments grew. I remember seeing Zul Bailey, who is the current head of the Sitka Music Festival, who is also a cellist. And at one of the lectures he gave here at UAA, pointed out that the cello he was playing with had been made before Bach was alive. And that it was because of the quality of that instrument and the people that were able to learn how to play it that Bach was able to write the music for that instrument, right? So instruments are evolving as well. But so he's playing a particular meme with that Bach wrote. So it's on paper, but it's also on sound. But of course, for hundreds of years, the only way you could have passed on that particular meme was with another cellist or another symphony orchestra, right? But then, of course, we started inventing recording devices that could also pass it on. Theoretically, they're not very accurate. I mean, do you think CDs are better than vinyl recordings?
I don't have a good enough ear.
I don't know.
I don't have talent.
Not to me, but I think that's how he's driven his decision.
Anybody actually listen to CDs?
I do, because they sound better in my car than the Bluetooth aux does.
Okay. I remember when we bought the Honda Pilot for my wife in 2003, we referred to it as Donna's CD player because it had a CD player in it. Hardly ever used it.
Mm.
Who brings a CD when you're just driving 15 minutes down the road? If you're going to Seward, CDs might be useful because there's some gaps there. And a lot of the time, if you're just using the radio, you're going to hear a lot of incorrect information about Jesus. It's just, the case. But in any case, today, of course, I used to have something called 8-track tapes. No longer even have an 8-track tape player. And the dang things, they're looped, right? And there was a basic tape that stuck the loop together and it dried out. So if you had 8-track tapes, they fell apart. So that was a terrible idea, basically. But then, of course, we had cassette tapes. We had reel-to-reel tapes before that. I remember the magazine commercial, which was black and white, a picture, showed a tree falling in a forest. And underneath it was a table with a Sony tape recorder, which was this size, big reel-to-reel. What are they, 12 inches, 8 inches, whatever. And then underneath it said, what Sony hears is, indicating just how accurate it was, right? So of course the joke is if a tree falls in the forest and there's nobody there to hear it, does it make a sound? Their answer was, well, a Sony tape recorder is actually hearing it, so it does make a sound, which indicates they're not philosophically very astute, because when you play the tape back, you're not hearing the tree fall, you're hearing the tape player play the tape. So you're still not hearing the tree. Doesn't solve that problem, that philosophical conundrum. Um, but I mean, now movies, that's the thing that really, can I say the expression, pisses me off?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, we had loads of VHS tapes, you know, but then we went to DVDs for movies. So we've got all these DVDs. I don't know if you've discovered it, but the only place I've found that can still sell you a DVD is Walmart, that has old ones. And I think online you can still buy DVDs for things.
There's the place that looks like a shady porn stop on Muldoon that sells DVDs. I see the sign out there every time I drive
I
by.
think I've seen that place too.
Remember, I don't think I could get into heaven unless I have a clearance. And that's the kind of place where I feel like just my proximity to it could end up screwing up my clearance. You know, so not going to go there. No, you have to download or stream movies today. And that's been dramatically quick to see the change that's taken place. Let me ask you this. Is a book virtual?
Absolutely.
I thought virtual meant like digital.
Well, I argued that mathematics, remember, a point is that which has no parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. are a series of points, which means they don't exist in
I see.
some kind of real sense. They have their existence not in the real world, but only in mathematical language, which exists only in the fluent speakers who have mathematical language. Books are language on paper. So it's an interesting problem because can someone pick up a book that doesn't speak the language or read the text and know what's being said in the book?
But it's context again. It's no longer the same meaning. This thing that I'm picking up isn't a book in the sense that it's a story or a written treatise on something or whatever. It's just a lump of trees cut into paper. Like it's a physical entity, but without the language, it's no longer a thing. Or the same thing.
Well, I mean, it's a tricky question. It's almost
It's a
just like,
violin or a cello without Bach.
or a DVD without a DVD player.
Right.
And when Brian Greene talks about the fabric of the cosmos in chapter 4, his book, The Fabric of the Cosmos, chapter 4 is called The Frozen River. And what he's talking about is time. And he says that a contemporary physicist believes, or at least some of them do, that all of time exists at once. That's like a frozen river. So actually you could take a particular moment in time and kind of like a river, you could like slice it and you've got that particular point in time. Then, whenever then was, right? But it's all there in time. And so he makes the comparison with a DVD of the movie Gone with the Wind. You know, and you think, okay, Gone with the Wind. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn, right? You know, I don't know if you've seen the movie, actually, but when you see that movie with a DVD, you put the DVD, of course, in the device, the DVD player, and it takes the permanent pits, the data that's on that aluminum plate, and the Blu-ray or the red laser basically reads those pits and communicates it through however magic it does, and it's displayed on the screen so that you're watching the screen as a series of still photos that incrementally, played quickly, give you the impression of movement and sound and music and all that sort of thing. And so basically, you're taking something that's like the frozen river of time, and through the device, you are making it appear as if it's moving, right? And his conclusion, or his point, is that your consciousness is the device by which the frozen river of time appears to be playing a movie, the movie that you are experiencing as your life. So that from this physicist's point of view, time doesn't move, time doesn't go from past to future, except that our individual consciousnesses experience time as if it is moving, but it's not because of the physical nature of time, it's the nature of our consciousness.
Which can only see things in cause and reaction.
I remember when we had here at UAA, we actually had quite a dynamic academic environment, but we had the big, or this little book of the Big Bang. I remembered, how about that, the title of the book. So the little book of the Big Bang, and notice that's Craig Hogan was the professor, and he was here and gave a lecture on this topic in Arts 305, or whatever the number of that, the one up on the third floor, the big room, 200 some people can fit. And he was up there, and he gave a lecture on this. And I was brave, despite the fact that, I'm one of those people that just keeps getting a new contract based on the university saying, okay, let's get him, he's cheap, and people seem to like him, so he'll fill in the seats, etc. But I've always been concerned that I don't act like an idiot in front of the other faculty. But I had read lots of stuff on this topic, and knowing what Brian Greene says about consciousness, I raised my hand and I asked this scientist who was talking about the Big Bang and how time, etc., has changed. It's one of the models that we use to understand this, and it works really well. And I asked him, well, Brian Greene says that time passing is actually an illusion of consciousness. Is that true? Is he right to think that model is an important model for how time works? I didn't phrase it exactly like that. But at the same time, I said, and if so, how come we're not doing more to try to, understand how that works? And notice I'm still teaching here, because in front of all that rest of the faculty that were there, he said, you're right. That's what we do think. And I don't know why we're not studying it more. Maybe because it's the really hard problem that Dr. David Chalmers talks about, right? There again, you're conflating the concept of virtual reality. This is a model of how time works. Nothing can be more essential to our daily life than believing that time is actually moving from the past to the future with a brief present. Oh, it's gone. Grab the present. Ready? On the count of 3, everybody grab the present and keep it from moving to the next second. Ready? okay, that's pretty dumb, right? Because we can't do it. We know that.
We
As
can't
soon as
even
we,
experience the present. We experience the past. Like we're always, I can't remember what it is, and it's unique to every individual. But your mind operates in the past. What we experience right now, including what I'm saying right now, was my mind is taking it in, and it's seconds later.
all the pictures that I have of me are when I was younger.
Right. Exactly.
This is the oldest I've ever been. These are things that are necessarily